It's time to check out the Oscars for 1992, the Best Picture nominees, and then the winner. Which movie should have won? What do I think you should reconsider? What recommendations do I have from this year? I'm going to go ahead and pick the Best Picture winner, repick it, coming up next. Right now, I'm about 12 years into this series. I started in 1980, so now we're in the 90s. And hey, I was 13 years old at this time, something like that. And I remember these movies actually pretty well. I use the site atogt.com. This gives me the list of eligible releases from this year. And I can then simulate what it would have been like to have been an Oscar voter at this time back in 1992, voting on these movies from 1991, remember. So I'll let you play along. What would be your nominees for this year? What would be your Best Picture winner? Now, we take a look at the original nominee list. This follows a pattern that has long been established at this point in the Oscars, where the nominees list is very similar to the Best Director. I usually take off one or two nominees from the Best Picture and then put in two other directors I don't know that people like or something like that. So you get John Singleton for Boys in the Hood, which is not nominated as Best Picture, and Ridley Scott for Thelma and Louise. I actually like Boys in the Hood quite a bit. The original nominee list: Silence of the Lambs, Beauty and the Beast, the revival of animation from Disney Studios, Bugsy, really? Yep, here it is. And JFK. Oliver Stone had a string of movies that were nominated. He obviously went for Platoon. He really did back in, I think, 86. And then Prince of Tides, which is Barbra Streisand directed. Now, once again, this is a running theme in this video series. I do not love this nominee list. I mean, in some ways it's okay, but look at my draft of nominees. This is an absolutely killer list. This is a great year for movies all around, if we consider, as much as I understand it, the whole world and what's eligible and even not eligible. I put some not eligible movies in my list, but a huge list of excellent movies all around. It's really hard to narrow this down to, 5 movies. I divide this up into two. I think, here are the movies I'll consider for the nominee list, and then noteworthy movies just outside the list, either because I really like them for personal reasons, or other people really like them. I think they're great. But in that noteworthy list, I'm leaving out some good ones, and I did kick out Silence of the Lambs. Why? I probably agree with Gene Siskel, who didn't like this movie at the time, more so than Roger Ebert, who loved it, and obviously a lot of people did. I prefer Michael Mann's Manhunter. It's a very similar story. I think maybe the same story from several years before. I just like it a little bit better, and, then this movie comes out, and it's not as good in my opinion. But, okay, I think a lot of you will like it and put it in your nominee list. Perfectly fine. You can play the game. Just tell me in the comments what you think. In this noteworthy list, we've got a Scorsese movie, Errol Morris's Brief History of Time, on a documentary on Stephen Hawking. Lars von Trier, one of his first films, a Jim Jarmusch film. Once Upon a Time in China is a really fun action adventure kind of movie. And then Wim Wenders' Until the End of the World, 5-hour science fiction postmodern thing. So, I have no idea. If you want to call from this list, I think I would get a better list of nominees from that list. But let's move up to my draft. In my draft, you got Coen Brothers' Barton Fink. I think they won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival. I think that's the one that won. The Double Life of Veronique, when Krzysztof Kieślowski's last films. They even have Terminator 2, which, why isn't that in the original Best Picture list? I really don't know. I haven't studied this year enough. I've done a deep dive to see why Terminator 2 wasn't nominated. Maybe they were sick of James Cameron. I don't know, but it was a box office smash. Just so you know, one caveat, it's actually tough to figure out what year a movie was released. So I think I screwed up here. Judo, a Chinese movie. I think if this wasn't eligible this year for sure, but I think it might have come out in 1990. I missed it in that video, so I'm putting it in this list. But sometimes the movies are released in one year, then they're actually released in America the next year, and then the Oscars happen a year later, and it gets really messy and mixed up. So I think I'm a little confused with a couple of these movies in this list, just so you know. As far as recommendations, I pretty much recommend them all. It's just what is your flavor? You've got, a Mike Leigh movie, Life is Sweet. Love that. Think everybody should watch it. The two Oliver Stone movies, did they both come out this year? I might have got confused there, but The Doors and JFK. I recommend Bruce Beresford's Black Robe, one of the best movies about early America. I'm talking about 1600s America. I mean, there's not a lot of movies on that, but this one is quite good. Jane Campion's An Angel at My Table, a great biopic, a fantastic one about a New Zealand writer. I strongly recommend that. Paul Schrader makes it here, The Comfort of Strangers. I could talk about all of these movies. I think you should look up the summaries and go watch as many of them as you can, because this is a really good movie here. Alas, I need to whittle this down to 6, 7, I don't know, 5 at least to get a real nominee list. So here it is. And I'm really tempted to cheat. So just so you know, A Brighter Summer Day is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. It's not eligible. It wasn't released in the United States on time, or it wasn't ever, so it didn't get Oscar nominated, but I would pick that movie as my Best Picture winner if I were cheating. I've cheated once or twice in this series. With this particular list, I'm not going to do that. So Brighter Summer Day should get Best Picture, but it won't because it wasn't eligible at the time. And a shout out to Raise the Red Lantern, an outstanding movie from China here, and I love this movie. I think all of you should go watch it. It's another one I think is fantastic, but again, not eligible, so we're going to have the other 5 movies here as the nominee list. I've already said something about Angel at My Table, Jane Campion. Go watch it. It's just a really affecting movie about a woman who has a lot of life problems, but she becomes a very well-known writer around, in the South Pacific, New Zealand, Australia area. Barton Fink is a crazy, wonderful, excellent movie on writing, on creative process. I love this movie. I've loved it more as time has gone on. I didn't understand it first when I watched it 20 years ago. I like it. I identify with it a tiny little bit now. It makes a lot more sense to me. The Double Life of Veronique. I covered that on my channel. It's a doppelganger movie. It's confusing. I love it. It's really well done. I know a lot of people don't, but I think it's a pretty interesting what-if kind of movie, and Kieslowski loved that kind of scenario. And then you have the Hollywood movies, JFK and Terminator 2. I can't say enough about JFK. I love this movie. I've covered that on the channel. I think it's Oliver Stone's. If you want to pick one movie, it's his best. It's his masterpiece. A masterpiece meaning it's the singular best work by an artist. That's one definition of masterpiece. I would take that movie as his. I think it's great. And Terminator 2, arguably James Cameron's masterpiece. I never really liked this movie. I don't know. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I don't know what was wrong with me. I think it's the time loop plot hole, which is a science fiction trap. It's really easy to write a time loop story, but it's not realistic or plausible. I just enjoy now Terminator 2 almost as a silent movie for its long stretches of action, and there's not a shot wasted. The shots are great. The CGI still holds up. And classic performances by every single person in this movie. It spawned some goofy sequels, but all in all, this is a great Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, period. Edward Furlong is a fantastic sort of teenage actor in this. I can't recommend Terminator 2 enough. I think this is pretty close to a 3, 4, 5-way tie. Not really, but I think my top movie, the one I'm going to pick, is above all these other ones, and the other 4 are kind of close. But if I'm going to pick a Best Picture winner, it's going to be...
And the Oscar goes to...
It's going to be JFK, a cockamamie, crazy movie with crazy ideas. Oliver Stone's version of what he speculates might have happened with JFK's assassination. It strikes me as nonsense, and it's nonsensical awesomeness. The way the camera works the frame, his editing in this is amazing. And, this movie's influence is wildly unbelievable. In fact, it's a negative influence as far as I remember it. Maybe I understand it. Because conspiracy theory, that phrase gets batted around more after this. I think the JFK assassination after this is also taken, the interest in it rises, but it's taken less seriously somehow, I think, after this. Now, you cite, evidence to the contrary and prove me wrong. But I do think this could still raise the questions, like who shot JFK and why, and what was their motives. It's a total postmodern movie that wants justice and truth but can't get it, and so the movie's striving to be that kind of thing, but it's also doing the other thing, which is like being totally confusing and uncertain and paranoid. And I think this is, as far as what Oliver Stone is all about, his love of JFK, his belief that JFK would have been a great president, would have done great things, like been more of a peacenik president, obviously, and the CIA would have had less influence. All that sort of stuff comes out in this movie. His wishful thinking about America is here, and I think some of the messages in that way are clear. I think he's a patriotic guy, frankly, so whether you like that or not, but I think for mostly good reasons. So I love this movie, and I'm going to pick it, but as I said, A Brighter Summer Day would have won for me over this if I could have nominated or picked it. Now, all that said, I don't think out of the series so far, I've had like 25 movies in my list, my draft list. So there could be a wildly diverse view here of which movie is best and why and how and who should win and all that. Let us know in the comments what you think. I'd love to hear from you and your views. Be kind in the comments to everybody else, of course. Please subscribe to this channel and go check out the video series. I've done this for 1980 through now 1992. I'm going to keep going. This is a lot of fun. See you later.